Section 40 of Up One Pair of Stairs of My Bookhouse. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Anna Hawley. Up One Pair of Stairs of My Bookhouse. Edited by Olive Beaupre Miller. Jamie Watt and his grandmother's tea kettle. Jamie Watt, a little Scotch boy, sat by the great open fireplace in his grandmother's kitchen. Above the rosy, glowing flames there hung an old-fashioned tea kettle. Jamie had been whittling a piece of wood and making a cart with wheels, but now he dropped his work in his lap. Something had happened to the tea kettle that caught his eye, and he began to watch it closely, for he never let anything strange pass by without finding out the reason for it. The water in the kettle had begun to boil, and a little white column of steam was puffing out from its spout. Pretty soon, piff, 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 the lid of the tea kettle began to rattle. Piff, piff, piff. Something lifted the lid right up in the air. "Oh, Grandma, Grandma," cried the boy in great excitement. "What is there inside your tea kettle?" Grandma was busy laying the table for supper. "Nothing, Jamie. There's nothing in there but water," she answered. Up popped the lid again. The boy watched it, breathless with interest. "But, Grandma, there must be something inside the kettle," he insisted. "See? Something keeps lifting the lid." "Ho, ho," laughed his grandmother. "Perhaps it is a brownie or a pixie you're thinking is in the kettle. No, no, it's only the steam that does the lifting. You can see clouds of it puffing out all around the lid." Now, Jamie wasn't thinking at all that it was a brownie or a pixie that was in the kettle, but he was thinking that he wanted very much to know what this thing called steam was that had so much strength and power. Carefully he leaned over and lifted the lid to look inside. Nothing at all could he see but boiling, bubbling water. "Grandma," he asked, "where does the steam come from, and how did it get into the kettle?" Grandma was used to his questions. He was always wondering about things. "Why, dearie," she answered, "steam always rises from water when water boils." The boy stood studying the kettle for a little longer. Then he sat down again, and while he was thinking and thinking, he began absent-mindedly spinning the wheels on the little cart he was making. At last he burst out, "Grandma, if the steam in the kettle is strong enough to lift the lid, why couldn't steam from a great deal more water lift much heavier things? Why couldn't it push wheels around?" Push wheels around? Grandma did not even try to answer so absurd a question. Jamie had strange and idle dreams, she thought, and she wished he would spend his time thinking of something more useful than pushing wheels around with steam. But Jamie never left off wondering about the steam just the same, nor was his wondering so idle and useless as his grandmother supposed. "That steam has the strength of a giant," he would say to himself. "If I could only find how to make use of it, it would not only lift heavy weights, but it would make all kinds of machinery go and do all sorts of work for men." So Jamie went on studying and working as he grew to be a man. Many times he made experiments with steam engines, and his engines failed to go, but he always learned something new from each failure. Other people thought him foolish and laughed at him. "Ho, ho! Jamie Watt is going to harness up the clouds that puff out of his granny's tea kettle and make them do the work of a giant," they would jeer. But in spite of all this, Jamie worked right on, year after year, until at last he did indeed make what no one had thought he could, a steam engine that was a success. and that was the little Scotch boy's great gift to the world. It was Jamie's engine that made possible the engines that draw trains, push steamboats, turn machinery, and do all the 101 useful things that steam engines do today. Men had lived for thousands of years beside the great giant steam, and yet not one of them ever learned how to harness it and make its mighty power of service to men, till one small boy began to think and to question how it lifted the lid of the old tea kettle in his grandmother's kitchen. End of section 40.